You've heard it all your life, haven't you? Be strong, don't cry. Boys don't cry. It's a phrase that starts young, shaping you before you even understand what it really means. Over time, it becomes more than just words. It becomes a rule that men are supposed to follow without question. But what does it actually do to us? What does it mean to hide your emotions just because society says that's what a man does? Today we're diving into the truth about why men hide their emotions. We'll explore how it starts, how it changes you, and why. Even though society might start saying it's okay to be vulnerable, most men won't allow themselves that luxury. It starts early, doesn't it? From the moment you're a boy, the world tells you what it expects from you. You fall down, scrape your knee, and instead of comfort, you hear, "Toughen up, don't cry." You get hurt in a game, and they say, "Shake it off." Over and over, the same message is drilled into you. Emotions are weakness, and men don't show weakness. This message doesn't just vanish as you grow older. In fact, it only gets louder. As a young boy, you might feel confused when you're told to stop crying. But by the time you're a teenager, you've internalized it. Crying isn't an option. Being vulnerable isn't an option. You learn to shut it all down. And here's where it starts to change you. As you begin to grow, something else happens. You start to distance yourself from your parents. It's not because you don't care about them. It's because this idea of being strong gets tied to independence. Boys are taught to grow into men who stand on their own, who solve their problems without relying on anyone else. So what happens? You stop sharing your feelings. You stop going to your parents for advice or comfort because, in your mind, that's not what a man does. You've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability, even with the people who love you the most, is a weakness. Over time, this creates distance, a gap that grows wider as you get older, leaving you feeling isolated. And that isolation doesn't just stay at home, it seeps into your friendships too. Friendships, in many ways, are your escape. With your friends, you can joke, laugh, and forget about the pressures of the world. But there's a catch. Even among your closest friends, there's a limit to what you can share. You can talk about the game, about work, about anything, except your emotions. Why? Because just like you, your friends have grown up hearing the same message. They've been told that showing emotions is awkward, uncomfortable, or weak. So instead of opening up to each other, you crack jokes. You laugh things off. You might even make fun of your own pain. Humor becomes a mask, a way to cope with emotions that you've been taught not to express. And here's where it gets even more complicated. The more you laugh it off, the more disconnected you feel. You joke about things that hurt, but deep down, the pain remains. It doesn't go away. It just hides beneath the surface, making it harder to confront. Think about it. How often do men joke about the very things that bother them the most? Body image, emotional struggles, failure. It all becomes part of the banter. But why? Because humor is a defense mechanism. It's a way to address the things that hurt without actually confronting them. You make fun of your own insecurities before anyone else can, as if that somehow protects you from the reality of those feelings. But here's the truth. Those jokes don't erase the pain. They don't make it any easier. In fact, they can make it worse, because now you've distanced yourself even further from what you really feel. You've convinced yourself that it's easier to laugh than to admit that something's wrong. And that's the danger. The more you suppress, the more isolated you become. By now, you've built up walls. You've distanced yourself from your parents, your friends, even yourself. And maybe you don't realize it, but the cost is heavy. Emotionally, you're alone. You feel like no one understands you, like you're carrying a weight that only you can bear. But here's the thing, you don't have to be. You've been taught to believe that showing emotion makes you weak. But in reality, hiding it is what weakens you. The longer you suppress your emotions, the harder it becomes to connect with the people around you. You feel disconnected, like you're on the outside looking in. You might not even understand why you feel this way. It's because the very act of hiding your emotions is isolating you. It's keeping you from building meaningful connections. So what now? How do you break the cycle? Well, for many men, by the time they reach adulthood, they don't break it. They've built an identity around being tough, about never showing weakness. And after all the jokes, all the suppression, they start to accept this idea: men cannot be weak. And then something strange happens. Society starts to tell them it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be weak. But by this point, most men ignore that message. Why? Because deep down they've made peace with their role. They've become the shield for others. When you're a man in your home, you're not just a person. You're the wall that protects everyone from the world. And if that wall cracks, everything behind it crumbles. Even if a man knows deep down that showing emotion is okay, he chooses not to. He becomes cold, stoic, emotionless. It's the ultimate sacrifice. He gives up his emotional freedom to become the protector of others. And once he matures and sees the world for what it is, he understands that this is his role. He accepts it, even if it means becoming a shadow of the person he once was. At the end of the day, hiding your emotions doesn't protect you, it isolates you. It keeps you from experiencing the fullness of life and relationships. But when you embrace those emotions, when you face them head on, that's when you find real strength. Remember, being a man isn't about never feeling pain. It's about having the courage to confront that pain, to understand it, and to grow from it. That's what true strength looks like. If this message resonates with you, hit the like button and subscribe. Let's redefine what it means to be a man, together. Stay strong, keep pushing forward, and I'll see you in the next one.